But I wanted to also echo what was said before me, to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to comment as to what you are proposing to bring to the Virginia State Legislative meetings. And specifically, I'm here to talk a little bit more about the matters that have been, the genesis of which are being addressed, starting to be addressed in the recently passed amendment to the Virginia State Code. Specifically, I'm talking about Title 15.2, Subtitle 2, Chapter 22. So 15.2-2209.5, the citing of data centers and site assessment. I'm specifically interested in bringing this explicit section of code to your attention because as a former developer of large-scale energy projects, having worked as a GIS analyst, development engineer, business development analyst, and developer of projects of this scale and intensity, I'm incredibly intrigued by what seems to be the clear, distinct contrast as to the specificity in this recently amended section of code when compared to previously existing sections of code that address the citing and kind of like review processes recommended by the state to locally elected officials when considering approval of projects of this scale and intensity. There's a couple really great examples already existing in the state code that speak on this. 15.2-2288.8, special exceptions for solar photovoltaic projects, as well as 15.2-2241.2, bonding provisions for decommissioning of solar energy equipment, facilities, or devices. There's also a section of code that I plan to hopefully speak on later if I'm able to get my information put in correctly at the end of this meeting, that speaks to when applicants feel after the process of approval of or denial of a permit that final judgment was granted on unconstitutional terms. And so the reason that I call this topic to your attention, which feels fairly heavy to me, and I hope to speak a little bit more on it to give some more information later down the line, is because what I have been increasingly seeing in the energy development space is that even when localities correctly and effectively put in place a special use permitting process, as you guys have done, and I cannot congratulate you enough on doing that. It really is a huge milestone, and I think you should all be very proud of yourselves. But even after that's done, if a developer, specifically it seems like of these data centers, goes through the process and is unhappy with the outcome, what they've been doing in states like Texas and in the Midwest is suing the localities on the basis that denial was unconstitutional. So again, I hope to speak to this a little bit more. These are topics that I think are relevant in these Virginia state legislator conversations. And I just implore you to maybe reflect and ask your peers when attending these things, maybe why these things are so different. And then also to explicitly request, or I guess follow up on some of the council discussion that occurred at the continuation of the public hearing, resulting in the approval of the proposed zoning amendment specifically related to the special use permitting process for data centers as a permitted use. At that meeting, I understand there was some discussion and conversation around acknowledgement that perhaps there is some more research that can be done to help inform application requirements from the developers towards the planning department in order to ensure that these things are being appropriately vetted. And more specifically, I was one of the members that submitted some recommendations, members of the community that submitted recommendations earlier in the year to you all, and I did email you all. Again, apologies for falling off the map for a little bit. So I just want to again, congratulate you on that hearing, and to say part of the reason that I think this congratulations carries a lot of weight is that in all of those former roles I mentioned, as a developer, I was the one that was contacting each of you individually to introduce myself as a representative of the company, to understand who you are and what you cared about, and then to source and execute not only contracts, but approvals to allow for the effective permitting of these large-scale energy projects. So I'm quite intimate with the process. And that being said, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for the level of responsibility carried on the weight of all of your shoulders when it comes to these matters. So again, congratulations. Along those lines, I do have a joke where I say, and please bear with me because this is going to sound silly at first, but we shouldn't be afraid to die because our bodies are built to do it, and therefore it's kind of like being afraid to go to the bathroom. That being said, just because it's something that's natural doesn't necessarily mean you should be going to the bathroom in places where that's not really okay, or doesn't excuse taking someone else's life. And so, speaking independently of any group, just as a representative of myself, I do not necessarily oppose development because I do view it as one of the unique qualities of our country going back to its founding. That being said, I do think it's really important to ensure that development is done in an ethical manner. So I wanted to make a suggestion to you all in support of exploration of some of those recommendations, but to also encourage open and frank conversation between you all as representatives of, but also members of the community, and the people in the community with interest or attachment to this matter, to appoint a special committee or a subcommittee to, on your behalf and working with yourselves and the county staff, further explore some of those recommendations. In part because I also hope to provide an avenue for you all to educate yourselves on what is and isn't normal to expect when speaking with developers on matters of large-scale land use. Thank you very much for your time again. I'm going to do